I've been seeing some ideas for a solution as defunding police has come up, and I don't think that that's really an answer either. I know police, like teachers, schools, they're underfunded already. We see a lot of officers in times of emergency because nobody gets a day off. But defunding them, it's a knee-jerk reaction, and it's not the answer. I think that we can reallocate funds from other places. We have jobs that have been created in high levels of government that don't warrant the salary they get. So maybe we start knocking out some of these less than necessary jobs and reallocate those funds to more productive means. And one of the things I propose that we allocate those funds to is training for officers. Now, officers have a lot of training in how to do the job. And when I went to the academy, I had 27 weeks of training on how to be an officer. But I'm talking about training on how to live with being an officer, how to live with the job of being an officer. You see, police officers, they go out and they see the worst behavior society has to offer. Police officers go out and they see that they're constantly under attack, just even verbally, which sticks and stones, but over a career has an impact. When officers go out and see the things that they see, it creates biases and prejudices that may not have existed. And if they did exist, then they're just reinforced and strengthened. And so we become different people. When I signed up and applied to become an officer, I had to take a 999 question written exam or psychological exam. And the state went into a hiring freeze. And so an officer came in and said, "Hey, we need you to take this psychological written exam." And I said, "I already took that one." And he said, "No, we need you to take it again because it's been 12 months and the results are only good for 12 months. So I took that 999 question written exam again, and then went through the process and became an officer. My question is, if the results of that test are only good for 12 months, why is that? Well, we know why. Because in 12 months, people change. So they got to make sure that I'm still okay to do the duty of being an officer. If it's so important in the vetting process of making sure someone is okay to be an officer, why is it no longer important once somebody becomes an officer and really starts dealing with emotional trauma? The negligence is on the agencies. I've said before that it's not all police. But one thing I can say it is all of is it's all agencies. Agencies are neglect in serving the officers that are sworn to serve the communities and their citizens. Agencies will stand up in front of a podium and talk about how they will not stand for this. This is not what we believe in. None of that. That officer's been removed, and where an investigation is in place. And okay, that's fine, whatever. But what did you do to prevent it, sir, ma'am? What did you do to prevent it? Well, we offer our officers, EAP, the Employee Assistance Program, where they can go talk to a therapist and once a week for an entire year, free of charge. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Except officers are the type of person that won't ask for help. By nature, that personality will not ask for help typically. What are you doing? And not one agency, I bet you anything, not one agency will be able to come back and say, we require our officers to go through emotional and trauma management training. Emotional strain and stress management training every year. And we hire an outside company to come in and conduct the training, and it's this many hours required, and that's what we do. Nobody will say that. No agency will say that. I mean, I hope there's one that comes up. I hope there's more than one, but I doubt it. The overwhelming number will be that agencies don't offer this. They are a reactive. They take a reactive stance on this instead of a proactive stance. So, what's it going to cost to provide training for all these agencies and all their officers? What's it going to cost? We got to give more money to police? Yeah, it's going to be expensive. That doesn't come cheap. But you know, this senator who has two assistants who are making a combined $150,000, $175,000 or whatever they're making, right? They need one assistant. You don't need this position. You can combine these two positions in the state. You can combine these two positions in this city. This person who is working for the city doesn't need to make that much money. And if they don't like the pay cut, find somewhere else to work. Become an officer. Listen, I know firsthand how hard it is to be an officer. Even on days where nothing happens, the potential to lose my life or have to take a life was always there. And I didn't have training on how to deal with that. Going to the scene of a crash and seeing the physical trauma at a fatal traffic collision, seeing what happens to the human body when it gets hit by a train, seeing what happens to a man's head when it gets run over by a car, picking up a portion of that man's skull and part of his brain just because we got to clean the scene up. Those things, they stay with you. And I didn't have training on that. Going to someone's house and listening to this screaming cry of a grown man who's just been told that his brother is dead. That sound doesn't go away. I still hear that sound. Watching a lady hold her 5-year-old son in the middle of the street after she just watched him get hit by a car. It's a difficult thing. I stood over the lifeless body of a young boy, his naked body laying on a slab in the morgue, his head wrapped in a blood-soaked bandage, same age as my son at the time. And I looked down at that boy and I saw my son's face. That's how I saw my son's face. But I did my job, took notes, conducted the investigation like I was trained to do. I was trained to investigate crashes. I wasn't trained on how to handle the effects of those crashes and what I see. I went home after that shift and I stood in my son's room and I looked down at him as he lay in his bed sleeping. And my brain saw my son laying there, his head wrapped in a blood-soaked bandage. I slept in my son's bed with him for 2 weeks straight, because that was the only thing I knew how to do to remind myself, to convince myself that he was still alive. He was not that child that was dead in the morgue. I wasn't trained on how to handle that stuff. Those things have an effect. And what affects the officer affects society, because we develop these biases and prejudices and we don't know how to handle stress. We become short, and either we take it out on society or our spouses or ourselves through alcoholism or suicide. And what's being done about it to prevent it? Nothing. Agencies have been neglect in helping officers protect and serve rather than seek and destroy society, families, or themselves. And that's unacceptable. That cannot happen anymore. Defund police? I don't think so. We can defund a lot of other stuff that has zero worth and reallocate that into training officers on how to be the best possible versions of themselves so that they can go back to doing what they were sworn to do, and that is protect and serve the communities. I think that's the better way. Actually, I know that's the better way. So I put together a petition because I know this is absolutely needed. I know it's what I needed. I'm lucky. I'm lucky I made it. I still hear those screams. I still see those pictures. In my mind, I still see the mental picture of the dead bodies, the carnage, the screaming cries of people, just the heartbreak. And that's ongoing day after day, year after year, and that will change anybody. Most people don't have to deal with that ever in their lives. Some do once, maybe twice, maybe. But year after year after year, and we're supposed to just be okay. And then, oh, by the way, fuck you, pig. I smell bacon. All kinds of stuff like that. Those types of things too. It's difficult. And these humans that wear the uniform need training on how to handle this stuff so they can protect the humans that don't wear the uniforms. All of them. So this petition will hopefully bring awareness to this and get legislation introduced that would require emotional strain and stress management training, ongoing, mandatory, for officers in every agency, in every line of law enforcement, from the beat cop to post-incarceration supervision, police, state police, corrections, probation, parole, and anybody else who is a sworn officer. It needs to happen. People are dying. People in uniform, people out of uniform. And that's unacceptable. It's too much. One more is too many. One more is too many. Enough is enough.